Today on the Stay Visionary podcast, we're joined by Alex King of Puffer Morris Real Estate in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Alex brings a unique background to real estate, blending local market knowledge with a people first approach shaped by his experience in anthropology. We're excited to talk about his journey, the Lancaster market, and how technology and AI are changing the way buyers, sellers, and agents connect. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you. Yeah, great to talk to you.
Yeah, can you Alex, can you share a little bit about your background and how you got into real estate?
I was a professor at the University of Aberdeen. I was teaching anthropology there for 12 years. Both my sons were born there. And then as they were getting a little older and as my wife's parents and my parents were getting frailer, we decided we wanted to relocate back to the States. And I got a 2-year teaching stint here in Lancaster with Franklin and Marshall College. I didn't end up being a permanent post, and I didn't want to shift my kids around pursuing an academic career. So I pivoted to real estate. My father had bought and sold real estate as a small time investor, and he did very well by that. Didn't talk too much about the details. It's unfortunate now that he's passed. I would love to pick his brain more about that investing side. But when he retired from his engineering job, he thought he wanted to be a real estate agent, and then found very quickly he didn't like a lot of the work, which is selling yourself. He's an introvert. He's a numbers guy. He loved doing the deals, looking at the buildings. He sold a few properties to people he knew. From what he said, I figured, well, actually, me is the one product I have full confidence in. And that kind of, selling yourself is what academics call grantsmanship. I'm the perfect person to do this research project, and you should give me hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it. So I knew that, I had the personality for those sorts of things. I'm an extrovert, so I just love meeting people every day. My younger son is more like his grandfather. He says, "Boy, what you do is like my worst nightmare. Meeting new people every day, getting to know what they're like." And I found them with anthropology. Really one of the best assumptions there is people are not like yourself. Everyone's a little different. Don't make assumptions about what they're thinking or what they want, and listen carefully, earnestly. Take people seriously, and so that's what I've been doing, and things have worked out really well.
Yeah, anthropology is very unique, and you kind of already went into my next question, which was how did that really shape your maybe real estate technique with your outgoing personality? And can you give us
Just to be clear, I'm a linguistic cultural anthropologist, so I don't dig for things. I prefer to, study with people while they're still alive. I'm not an archaeologist, and it also helped. My family parachuted into this city in 2016, and then by 2019, I was working on my license. And so right before the pandemic is not the best time to launch a real estate career. But my first client was someone who already knew and trusted me. She was a senior professor in the department here where I had been teaching. So she
Excellent.
knew I was, a solid individual and trusted me to figure out how to sell the house she'd been living in for 30 years and help her buy a condo and downsize and all that. That was certainly helpful, both the personal connection with a former work colleague, and as well as I guess they call them soft skills. I like to think of them as people skills because there's really nothing soft about understanding how human beings work. That's pretty hard in a lot of instances, and I think that's where the kind of anthropological training and also my experience doing research with indigenous people in Siberia. I'm used to all kinds of different people in all kinds of different houses, whether people are looking to buy a second or their third home. They're scaling up or they're downsizing. Kind of whatever their income level or life stage. These are kinds of people I've been talking to all over the place.
Excellent. So, what makes the Lancaster real estate market different from other areas in Pennsylvania?
For one, the county is not losing people. So the state is having a net loss in population. Lancaster County is having a small but a net gain. If you dive deeper into those numbers, it's maybe not quite as rosy, considering a lot of that is with the significant number of retirement communities we have here. But still, it has a very diversified economy. In fact, Lancaster County was featured on NPR about 5 years ago about how it has a big manufacturing base and a lot of agriculture, and that's kind of a recipe for disaster, according to economists. But it also has significant healthcare industry, and it just has this wide diversified portfolio of economic things. There's no one basket of eggs in this county, and that diversification, economically speaking, tourism is also a big thing here. People coming to see the Amish. It brings in. I think that might be $1 billion industry in this county. That tourism.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. So
Wow.
that economic diversity. Don't quote me on that number. But that economic diversity is really keeps the economy resilient. Also, the Amish are a very small part of the population. They are a big part of kind of the ethos here. And that's one of frugality and caution. So when values were exploding right after the pandemic and people were going crazy, there wasn't really that much craziness here. Now, we did see like 13% annual appreciation for a couple of years, but that's nothing like other places that were just
Right.
literally going into a bubble. But what that meant was when that ended, we didn't see a decline. We saw a tailing off and a plateau for a couple of years, but still positive.
Yeah.
And as I was kind of looking through numbers the other week, we're doing a 4 to 5 annual percent appreciation on median, single family homes here in
Yeah,
Lancaster
that's not bad.
County. Yeah.
Uh,
So
so
it's a general positive note is kind of one of the things that distinguishes us.
what's one of the biggest lessons, starting your business in the pandemic, right? What have you learned since getting into real estate?
You can't communicate too much. All of the problems that I encountered in that first year or two were caused by me thinking I had effectively communicated what I needed to do instead of following up with an additional phone call or following up that phone call with an email and really just kind of belt and suspenders approach to communication that duplicating, being redundant is key to being clear. And also, you know, uh, buyers and sellers often they're in a part of their life where things are really hectic. And it's easy to have a conversation with someone. You think they've understood and remember everything, but not necessarily everything. Since then, I'm always texting and emailing and calling, kind of a triple tap of people to make sure that everyone is on the same page and know what's going on.
So you really like helping the buyers and the sellers in your local market. Communication now being you have learned is a big deal, but tell us a little bit about how you like that interacting with your client.
I really like to get to know who they are and help them solve the problems that they have. So I have a client right now whose father is in decline. He's in care. And so he's the power of attorney for his father and needs to sell that house. And the neighbors down the street would like their kids to buy it. So I'm, you know, facilitating this transaction at, a much lower commission than if it were on the market. But I'm just happy to, help this son. This is the first time he's, sold his father's house and the kids buying it. They're in their mid 20s. This is the first house they bought. And, this is actually the fun part of the deal is when you're talking to people and helping them figure out what they need to do. It's not the marketing and the open house to the window shoppers and kind of all that. Here we have serious people trying to solve their serious problems, and that's my favorite part of the job, really. And I think people react to my sincerity. I guess it's a little bit of a teacher in me too. I'm happy to kind of teach them, walk them through, mentor them in this process. And I do quite a few estate sales and power of attorney sales. And again, that's something you do once in your life, right? And something I've
Yeah.
done several times. And they appreciate that, I have experience with their situation.
Are you seeing the buyers and sellers becoming more educated in the market before they even reach out?
No more so than previously. There is a certain kind of person who really loves to do their homework, and they're doing the best they can to get information from Zillow and Realtor and those kinds of places, as well as the news and whatnot. There are some buyers who even before they pre-qualify, they're looking at the market so they can get an understanding, like, so how fast did that house sell? What kind of situation do we have here? They're keeping track of things, but they're really just a minority. I'd say maybe only 1 in 5 of my clients is really that proactive. And generally, I'm finding the committed buyers and sellers are reacting to, a life change that is pushing them, like, I need to sell this house or I need to buy a house because of an event in their life requires a change in their living circumstances. It's um, really, yeah, it's just the about a fifth of my clients have that kind of more investor mindset, if you will.
Puffer Morris Real Estate, and how are they growing over the next year or 2 years? Where do you see like the market going, and particularly Puffer Morris?
Well, Puffer Morris is a small boutique brokerage based right in the city of Lancaster, and most of us are specialized with residential single family homes in and nearby the city. Um, I also have another business that helps people with downsizing, so I find myself with listings kind of all over the county. But growing is
What is
cautious.
that business? What is that business?
Right. So my other business is called Caring Transitions. I own a franchise. It's a national chain. It helps people with downsizing, senior moves, and estate sales using an
Excellent.
online auction
Yeah.
platform to get rid of people's things that they don't want or need anymore.
Yeah, especially when you're downsizing after all that years. Geez, I'm in a place for 5 years, and you want to get rid of things, and you just don't, the ridiculous stuff you buy, right?
Oh yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like, why do I have this?
About once a month, I'm in my basement thinking I should add this to one of my sales.
Um, what do you think the biggest pain point is in your business right now? Like lead generation, follow-ups, visibility, operations, or maybe something else?
I think it's really lead generation and visibility. With the media, it's kind of a crowded field. It does seem that everyone has a cousin who is an agent. Really, what I found for me and my colleagues at Parker Morris, who are leading the
Yeah.
charge, most effective is just keeping well in touch with your sphere, saying hello, periodically, or asking people, how's it going, and being sincere in that question. Keeping in touch, then things keep going. But there lockup is definitely a thing. There's a lot of people don't want to leave that 3% mortgage.
How do you feel about AI and automation? Are you seeing it come in more and more into the real estate professionals?
I am. I've dabbled in it a little bit myself. Unfortunately, it seems like where agents are using it the most is generating their social media posts or writing listing descriptions, which I think is the worst place to use it because that stuff is, AI slop is now a term. Wouldn't be surprised if it's word of the year by December. I don't want to do that. And I think there's a bit of a backlash. People are saying, hey, that's AI equals that's fake equals you're taking shortcuts where you shouldn't. I'm looking for ways to make AI more useful to give me reliable information. I'm particularly having a Google account, using Claude to summarize PDFs in my Google Drive. I find that to be useful. Trying to get ways to use AI to digest complex information and simplify it that then I can use. And the biggest difficulty there, of course, is reliability. But
Okay.
I think it's really early days.
Yeah, it's early, but also late, if that makes any sense, because it's moving so fast. It's exciting times in some ways. I think in real estate and in a lot of businesses. Your other business in this, is there ways? How can the public that watches this, leadership, that type of stuff, they're looking, they want somebody like you that is, honest and everything. Where can they find you?
Well, there's alexkingrealtor.com, my website. Easy place to find me. Also, following from my anthropology work, my social media handles are mmkut. So that's EMEMQUT. That's the name of a Koryak mythological hero. But if you Google Alex King Realtor, you will come up with both Alex King Realtors. There's me in Lancaster, and there's another gentleman in Florida selling uh, shore properties for millions of dollars. So the more
Huh,
humble
so that
one is
is not
me.
you.
Yeah,
You're the
that is not me.
Lancaster. Yeah. And what about your downsizing business? Is there a website for that?
Yeah, caringtransitions.com. That's easy to remember. And that's the corporate site. You just type in your zip code, or the zip code that where you need help, and that'll take you right to the location. If that's a zip code in Lancaster County, you'll hit right on my website for my franchise. That's yeah, Caring Transitions is the thing to remember there.
Is there anything else you want to promote or you want to mention or talk about before we close?
Well, briefly, I am editing a book on the indigenous people in Kamchatka where I've done work. I continue to work on that on the side. That'll be published by Berghan Press next year in 2027. And that's something that we're
Excellent.
hoping kind of more of a general audience would be accessible. We haven't made it too technical or academic.
Where's Kamchatka?
So Kamchatka is this peninsula sticking out of Northeast Asia, going into the North Pacific, and it's in the far northeast corner of Russia.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Oh, interesting. Okay.
yeah,
So that's coming out next year,
yeah,
Alex?
yeah. That should be available spring 27. Otherwise, yeah, check me out at Caring Transitions. You can get my phone number and my email address right there. Happy to field any questions. Even if you're thinking, well, I'm thinking about downsizing in a few years, or I've got a relative who needs a little help. I'm delighted to field those kinds of questions too. It doesn't necessarily have to be about the dollars right now. I'm just happy to share what I know and help people as I can.
Yeah, and really the real estate and that kind of go hand in hand. So for you to actually handle both areas is really convenient.
It really is. A lot of the adult children are out of state, and so I see them when either their parent has passed away or had a health crisis, and they're in that home and they're like, what do I do? I've got all this stuff. I've got this house. I live in Arizona, or I've got one fellow, he lives in Hawaii.
Right.
And I'm like, I can take care of it. It'll be fine. And yeah, they do find that a relief to have, one person just kind of solving their problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're taking care of that with all the stuff, and then also, you could put their house on the market. You could handle the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's amazing.
And I can,
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely advantage there. To other, real estate agents. I think that is definitely a plus. And then you add in, your outgoing personality and the fact that you actually really care, and you're looking for the best outcome from them is really amazing.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Well, that's the thing. I take the name of that company very seriously. The caring part is sincere. Yeah, and that overlaps great with
Yeah.
my approach
And
to
I
real
think
estate.
people see that, right? I mean, at least most people do, right?
Yeah,
They see that, and I think they appreciate that. So you got the both aspects of it, and it really goes hand in hand. Really, Alex, great conversation. I really appreciate you sharing your story, your perspective on the Lancaster market, your downsizing company, and how real estate really continues to evolve, and how really special the Lancaster, Pennsylvania area is. I appreciate it, Alex. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this episode for anyone passionate about innovation, leadership, and the future of intelligent automation. I'm Ed Moran, and as always, stay visionary.